All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking what is literally one of the most elaborate, cryptic, and globally coordinated scavenger hunts the internet has ever seen. Back in 2012, something incredibly strange popped up online. And look, it wasn't a game, it wasn't some clever marketing gimmick, and it for sure wasn't random. What we're about to look at is a wild maze of cryptography, ancient texts, steganography, and real-world GPS coordinates. And you know what the absolute craziest part is? To this very day, no one actually knows who created it.
So, setting the scene here, it's exactly January 4th, 2012. An anonymous user going by the four-digit pseudonym 3301 drops something highly unusual onto 4chan's infamous B board. Now, at first glance, it was just a simple black and white image, but man, it was about to set off a complete chain reaction across the entire globe. If you look at the exact text of that first image, it simply read, "Hello, we are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image." That's it, accompanied only by this strange, hand-drawn cicada logo and the promise of a hidden path for the incredibly few who could make it all the way to the end. It signed off with a simple, "Good luck, 3301." As you can probably guess, this simple image launched an absolute armchair detective frenzy. I mean, within minutes, the thing was reposted everywhere, and it immediately sparked massive questions. What was this for? Who was pulling the strings? Was it just an elaborate joke by some internet troll? Or was it something far more serious? Because like I said, no one has ever completely solved it, and absolutely zero individuals, groups, or governments have officially claimed responsibility.
Okay, moving to part 1, the call for intelligence. Now, this whole thing rapidly escalated from a basic forum post into a truly grueling, multi-layered test of cryptography and data security. It demanded a massive range of highly specialized skills. And honestly, it brilliantly illustrates how the puzzle aggressively filtered people right from the jump. You couldn't just guess your way through this. First, you had to discover that opening the original image file in a standard text editor revealed a string of readable text tucked at the end. That string contained a cipher. Deciphering that led you to a completely new image. From there, participants had to use Outguess, which by the way is a steganography application used to hide information inside digital files, just to extract hidden data from that second image. That clue pointed to a specific subreddit, which then held clues about a book. Ultimately, users had to decode the book just to find a literal, real-world phone number that played a pre-recorded, encrypted audio message. Talk about a rabbit hole, right? Every single step ruthlessly eliminated anyone who didn't have the chops.
Which brings us to part 2, from screen to street. See, the puzzle didn't just stay locked in the digital realm. Those 2 missing numbers mentioned in the pre-recorded phone message, they actually turned out to be the exact width and height of the original image. Multiplying those dimensions by 3301 led users to a brand new web address featuring a ticking countdown. And once that clock hit 0, the web page refreshed with a list of raw GPS coordinates. Suddenly, participants literally had to leave their keyboards, walk out their front doors, and go looking. What they found waiting for them were physical, paper posters taped up to telephone poles and bike shelters, each bearing that iconic cicada symbol and a QR code. So here is the absolute crucial point. This global deployment proved, without a doubt, that this wasn't just the work of some average troll sitting in a basement. We are talking about 14 different locations spanning 5 different countries. And get this, interestingly enough, every single poster was located within roughly an hour of an international airport. This required real-world travel, massive physical collaboration, and a coordinating entity that clearly had significant resources and a wide-reaching network across multiple continents.
But then, just as suddenly as it started, the first puzzle ended. A message popped up claiming they had found the highly intelligent individuals they were looking for. But Cicada 3301 wasn't done. Not even close. They returned exactly a year later in 2013, and then again in 2014. And to prevent any random imposters from hijacking the whole scavenger hunt, they brilliantly utilized PGP signatures, which is a cryptographic authentication method to verify their official clues. Basically, if a message popped up claiming to be from them but lacked a valid PGP signature, Cicada explicitly warned users to ignore it as a false path.
All right, moving on to part 3, the return and the runes.
During those 2013 and 2014 iterations, things got really wild. The puzzles grew so much more esoteric and incredibly complex. They evolved way beyond simple code breaking. We're talking original music tracks with titles like the Instar Emergence and the introduction of this deeply mysterious runic alphabet. In fact, the entire third puzzle in 2014 seemed to completely revolve around a strange, manifesto-like book written entirely in these runes by Cicada themselves. It was titled Liber Primus, which translates to first book in Latin, and it was absolutely packed with complex philosophical and ideological ideas. Honestly, some compared it to the writings of a cult. But more importantly, the text was heavily obfuscated by incredibly dense layers of encryption.
And get this, of the 74 pages in the Liber Primus that feature these runes, only 19 have been successfully translated to this day. Seriously. Despite years of collaborative effort from some of the absolute brightest minds on the internet, the rest of the book remains completely locked behind seemingly unbreakable encryption.
Which leads us to Part 4. Who is Cicada 3301? Naturally, we have to ask the biggest question of all. Who exactly possesses the resources, the highly specialized cryptographic knowledge, and the sheer motivation to orchestrate a years-long global treasure hunt? We've got to look at the leading theories impartially here. Some people strongly suspect government recruitment. And hey, that isn't totally unprecedented. The UK intelligence agency GCHQ had a Can You Find It cryptogram program, and the US Navy launched Project Arteuthis. Others theorized it might be an alternate reality game, or an ARG, kind of like Microsoft's AI campaign back in 2001. But the complete lack of any commercialization or product tie-in over the years casts some serious doubt on the corporate ARG theory.
Now, while it's undeniably tempting to imagine a massive, well-funded spy agency or some shadow government pulling the strings, we have to look at the practicalities. It's equally plausible, if not more so, that a small, loose-knit group of highly dedicated cypherpunk activists advocating for digital privacy orchestrated the whole thing. Think about it. Anyone with a bit of disposable income could theoretically just hire people online to tape up posters near airports, right? That easily creates the illusion of a vast, coordinated global network.
Let's turn to Part 5, Inside the Secret Society.
Okay, thousands of people tried this, but surely someone reached the very end of the private stages and lived to tell the tale, right? Well, actually, alleged puzzle winners like Marcus Wanner and a user named Nox Populi have come forward. They stated that the few successful recruits were eventually brought to a highly private dark web forum. There, they were told Cicada was basically a group of friends who shared strong ideals about security, privacy, and censorship. These winners were then tasked with developing privacy-conscious software. But, without a thrilling puzzle to solve, enthusiasm kind of waned, and communication abruptly ceased around May of 2013.
And there's this leaked final email sent to the finalists that asked a very provocative question. Do you believe that information should be free? It creates this fascinating paradox that really defines Cicada. On one hand, they were a group seemingly championing free information and privacy as an inalienable human right. Yet, on the exact same hand, they simultaneously demanded absolute, strict secrecy from their recruits, directly warning them not to share any details of those final stages. It's pretty wild.
And finally, Part 6, the unsolved masterpiece. The most haunting aspect to this entire explainer isn't really how it started or even how brutally difficult the puzzles were. It's actually how it just faded away into the digital ether, leaving thousands of questions completely unanswered. Cicada 3301 made their last verified, PGP-signed public statement back in April 2017. It was just a brief message warning people against disinformation and false paths. Since then, total silence. The Liber Primus remains stubbornly unfinished, its pages undecoded, and the possibility of a fourth puzzle is basically trapped in eternal limbo.
As we close out this explainer, you really have to wonder. In a modern world that is just completely saturated with digital noise, marketing, and endless distractions, Cicada 3301 was this quiet, hidden call to those who listen very closely. So, ask yourself, if a brand new, valid PGP-signed message were to suddenly appear on a random forum tomorrow, would you be one of the highly intelligent individuals ready to answer the call?